We are recording, and hello, everybody. This is Gail Craft, and we're here with the Empowering Process, and we're going to start talking about living an endlessly delicious life. Awesome. Today, what we're going to be actually covering are the items of acceptance, a little bit about acceptance, a lot about resistance, and a bit about just giving yourself permission. So if you're ready to go, I know I am, so let's get started.
Yes.
Yes, yes. And so if you have not yet gotten it, get yourself pen and paper because this is going to have exercises in it. Okay? Because
Okay.
today we're going to do a little bit of excavating, just a little bit of digging, not too much. You can do a little bit more when we're done. But what is living an endlessly delicious life? This quote is perfect. I intend to live life, live it, not just exist. And, no matter what, that's exactly what I want to do. But what does it mean when you say, I want to live this life? What does that look like? And so I'm using the word success here because most people think that success will make them happy. But what does living deliciously, living happily, living perfectly, living to your utmost look like? Do you have a clear understanding of what that means, right? It's not really um, success for you, like to your parents, right? Or to your peers or to your boss. It's not what they think it is, right? It's not being rich. It is being rich with quality of time, with family, with self, with friends, right? It could be spending time traveling, maybe 2 months a year, maybe more frequently than that. Anyone who knows me knows you say the word travel, I've got my suitcase packed and I'm ready to go. Is it, launching an entrepreneurial venture? For some people, they're serial entrepreneurs. They just love you creating a new business when it's up and running, selling that baby, and then creating another new business. This is really living life to its fullest to them. Is it being an expert in the field that you are most passionate about? Is it an intellectual study for you? So getting clear, right, as to what you value the most is your pathway towards freedom. So we're going to do a little exercise, not much. And if you're listening to the recording after we get started with this, you can pause it and then take your time writing down what you want to write, and then getting back in and kind of fast forwarding to the next piece. So go ahead, get yourself a piece of paper and a pen, and we're going to get a little bit of clarity. So I want you to just imagine, picture a day in your life. And in this day, where are you? Who are you with? What is your time spent doing? Your ideal life can often be closer and more attainable than you think. So as you sit down and you write, what are some of the things that you see in this perfect day? Like, this person is outside. Are you outside? Are you playing in on a swing? I have one client who just, her perfect life is being on a swing, right? Where are you? What are the smells around you? What are the sounds around you? What are the noises that you hear? What are the feelings that you're feeling? And as you write these things down, when I say your ideal life can be closer than you think, it's because Your ideal life, some of these things that you're writing down, you probably experience already. You might even know where to get it right now. I want you to ask yourself some questions. Could I elaborate on my vision of my ideal life? Can you make it bigger? Can you make it bolder? Can you make it more specific? Make it clear? Could I express this in another way or from a different perspective? Or would someone else looking in describe this? Could I give an example or draw a picture? Can you tell a story about this amazing life? Could I be more specific, meaning who specifically said what specifically? Why specifically? And is this beautiful existence, this clarity that you're creating of success, something that you create? And why do you believe that this is success? I'll give you another 30 seconds. And you can get back to this by the video. 5 seconds. Awesome. Good job. And so now that you've had a chance to kind of write out a little bit of what success, happiness would look like to you, think about this for a minute. My happiness grows in direct proportion to my acceptance. Think about that. So the more that I am accepting of things, the more my happiness will grow. And yet, it grows in inverse proportion to my expectations. Inverse. So if you have expectations, that means you cannot also have acceptance. Because if you have expectations, then you are setting up boundaries, if you will, resistance, which is something that we will be talking about shortly. So I find this statement one that maybe we can all ponder with our choices every day. Because if I'm not accepting, if I'm judging, or if I'm disappointed, or I'm feeling any kind of resistance, then I'm not feeling acceptance. And so what's going on in my life that I'm feeling this way? Just some thoughts, because it's really important for living an endlessly delicious life that you know who you are and where you're at. So understand, especially in this moment right now, that you cannot control everything. Life has many forces greater than who you are, right? And so what I've seen is that, or know, is that you can't change the weather, the economy, people's attitudes. You can't change um, viruses. You cannot change things that are out of your care, custody, and control. And I've heard that you can control only 20% of what goes on in your life every day. So it means 80% is out of your control. We're talking almost the Pareto principle here, the 80-20 rule. It's a universal law, by the way. But what you can do with that 20% is give it your all. Be all in 100% and let the rest go. Just let the rest go and focus on what you can control. We're going to very briefly talk a little bit about acceptance. Okay, just a little bit. And when I talk about the etymology, I'm talking about the root of the word. Okay, so when we defined acceptance at the root, it's the action of consenting to receive or understand something offered. So it is an action. Acceptance is an action, right, of receiving. So it's no resistance, it's receiving. Okay. And from a physical perspective, it's the state of being accepted, take or receive willingly. So when we talk about acceptance in your life, and we talk about acceptance when we talk about living an endlessly delicious life, we're talking about being in a state of receiving willingly, even if it's something that you don't specifically want. Doesn't mean you condone it. You just accept that this is how it is, and you make your decisions accordingly. So let's take just a couple of minutes. On your sheet of paper, I want you to write down what affects your acceptance, what affects you, either the ability to accept or what affects you to not be able to accept. So for example, I'll give you an example for the not. I've worked with a client and we talked about unattachment, which is really accepting as well. And she could not accept that she could love someone and be unattached. And so we spent a lot of our sessions on getting to the root of that in order for her to understand that not being attached means that you love someone for who they are, warts and all, and that they show up for you and you show up for them, or not, and it's okay. So I'll give you maybe another 30 seconds or so to just briefly think about what is affecting your acceptance. Okay, another 5 seconds. And we're going to talk now about resistance, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to define what resistance is and the etymology of it. Okay. You see these people pushing and this woman holding the door closed as these people push, right? No one's getting anywhere with resistance, are they? So when we define resistance, it's the attempt to prevent something by action, again, or argument, right? Etymology of that is to make a stand against or oppose. So we're going to talk a little bit about resistance because it is so important, because that is what we feel most of our day in and day out, is resistance. Whenever you feel a sense of fear, sadness, anger, shame, guilt, concern, whenever you feel a pull or a tug, you are out of alignment. You're feeling resistance to being who you are. You're feeling resistance, right? So it's very important for you to understand what this resistance is. It's when you dig into what you believe to be true. You dig in and you create an action and you react because you dig in. And then you just create more resistance. This tug of war is exactly what happens. Even if you believe you're right, understand that that's a word, believe. There is no right or wrong. It's just your belief. And your belief is beautiful, and so is everyone else's. So when you're feeling resistance, you're striving and longing and expecting ways the way the mind places barriers. It blocks you. It blocks your happiness. Resistance signifies your opposition, right? It feeds energy in resistance. When you feel resistance, you feed that resistance and the energy. It's like a circle. It's almost like a snake going after its own tail. It just keeps growing. And therefore, what you resist intensifies. And so that's where you get and you hear what you focus on expands. And a lot of times you may want something, but because you have a negative perspective, that's what grows. So again, I love this example. It's if you want to be a millionaire and you focus on the fact that you don't have any money today and you're having a hard time paying your bills, that's resistance to being, if you're being resistant to being a millionaire. A millionaire wouldn't care about their bills, they'd have someone else take care of them, right? And so if you can get into a state of being carefree and feeling the way it would feel as you write out those bills, think about how the fact that you have so much money to pay off these bills, that you have so many resources to get there, because otherwise you're resisting, and you're intensifying your emotional state, and you intensify your reality. And so, we worry because we don't trust ourselves to handle what is happening to us. We worry because we don't trust that the way the chips fall will work out for the best. We worry about the potential of bad happening instead of the potential of awesomeness happening. You can shift that. Life will resolve itself anyway. It no matter what, we're in a constant motion of change. It it figures itself out, whether you resist it or don't. So resisting it just causes stress and tension and pain and anguish and may make the resolution take a little bit longer. So we're going to do another exercise. So get another piece of paper and a pen. And I'm going to put all the questions up again. And so I want you to think of a time when you were angry and how you handled it. I want you to describe your reaction and your behaviors, and then fill in the blanks as you write this. The last time I was angry, I. So I'll give you a minute and a half to do this. Why don't I keep the questions up? Okay. Take your time. We all have moments of anger. Something didn't go our way. Be brutally honest with yourself, because I'm not going to read it and no one else is either. How did you react? How did that feel? Let's get another 30 seconds. I'm sure you can hear my grandson playing his games. Sorry. And 5 more seconds. Okay. Awesome. Good job. So we're going to continue. Now that you've thought about the last time that you got angry, think about how you can handle the situation in the future, maybe a little bit differently. You want to think of how you would process anger. What are the healthy skills that you can bring in? And as you read the examples that you have down that I gave you, by all means, borrow them. Think of your own. And I'll tell you the last time that I really got angry, you know, my response was, why does she trigger me? My next response was, she doesn't trigger me. I allow her to trigger me. My next response was, what's going on with me that I even got triggered here? Within 5 minutes, it hit, I reacted, I identified it, and I just shifted my perspective and it was gone. In that same situation a year ago, maybe, I probably would have spiraled for a little while. It wouldn't be as fast. So this is a process that gets better and better and better as you keep practicing it. So depending on what it is, so I like the deep breath, and I'll count my breathing in to 9, breathing out to 9, and I hold it for a little bit before I breathe out. That stops me immediately. Okay. So think about this, and then actually, if any of you journal, journal. Today I got angry, and here's what I did. I'm so proud of myself. So we've gone from acceptance, we've talked about resistance, right? And how you manage anger is a form of resistance. So now we want to talk about giving yourself permission. So that you're able to feel and accept that you feel this way and you release the blame. Okay? You give yourself permission to release the blame because blame is one of the most disempowering attitudes you can hold, and we all do it. Blame someone else rather than accept accountability for our own actions. So once you identify that you're in a state of blame, that something has come up and you're pointing the finger, right? Stop and realize how disempowering that is. And the reason that blame is disempowering is because when you blame, you give away your power and you become a victim. If I blame you, that means I gave you permission to do something to me. Poor me, I'm the victim because you did this to me. Poor me because I've gone through my life having to deal with the damage that you caused. Poor me, you just stepped in front of me and caused this to happen. Do we want to live in a victim mode? No. So as soon as you identify it, realize how it's it stinks to be a victim, quite frankly, right? An attitude of blame will not heal your pain, nor will it empower you. It will not make it better. And in fact, it will anchor it and make it worse. So part of living an endlessly delicious life is learning how to release blame. And in doing that, we're going to go through a list. And you give yourself permission to love. You give yourself permission to walk away. You give yourself permission to succeed. You give yourself permission to be happy. You give yourself permission to be healthy. You give yourself permission to shine. You give yourself permission to speak your truth. You give yourself permission to grow because you've taken responsibility for yourself. And it's so freeing. So when do you know that it's time to walk away? And this may or may not pertain to you. Somehow, some of this will. So when the person you are in a relationship with, their acts are damaging in some way, time to walk away. You're genuinely not happy. What job have you been in that you genuinely are not happy? It's time to walk away. You're with this relationship in order not to be alone. Time to walk away. The relationship interferes with your life goals. Time to walk away. The other party seems to no longer be interested. I think it's time to walk away. You argue frequently over little small matters. It's time to walk away. You make excuses to stay in the relationship. It's time to walk away. Now, before we move on, I want you to realize that any interpersonal experience that you have, whether it's with a friend, with a teacher, with a boss, with a peer, with a subordinate, with a leader, you're in a relationship. If there's more than one of you, you're in a relationship. And this applies 100% all of the time. You walk away from being involved, taking another look at the situation as though you were someone else. When you walk away, you turn around and take a look at what is going on as though you were someone else. And why do I say this? We talked about blame. We don't want to be taking blame with us. When you walk away, you don't want to be taking blame. You don't want to be taking anger. You don't want to be taking frustration. You don't want to be taking any of those negative emotions with you when you walk away, because then you're really not walking away. You may physically not be there, but you are emotionally still invested in the situation. So by looking at this from another perspective, how would your best friend describe the situation? How would an analyst, psychoanalyst, describe the situation? How would a complete stranger describe the situation? People who are not emotionally involved, how would they describe the situation? And how would they suggest you not be involved? You might be surprised at what you already know about what you already need to do. And just walk away. It's very simple. So when we talk about acceptance, we're also talking about gratitude, because we're grateful for who we are. By the way, without servitude, without servitude, because it's a proud and a beautiful thing to accept what's going on, what other people are doing, accept that you are in control, that you can control 20% of what's going on 100% of the time, and that in doing that, you can release any of the resistance that you are feeling at any point in time. And so next time we talk, we will talk about how you can actually take this information and change your perspective. I want to thank you very much. Looking forward to the next module with a few more exercises and changing your perspective. Namaste. Take care. You made it. Okay, guys, so the recording is over.
You are still recording, though.
I stopped it.